The Mercy Fleet, Part 1, The Mercy Fleet, Part 1, The Armies Beyond the Sun. The warning reached Afara Prime 12 minutes before dawn. There was no sunrise over the capital in the ordinary sense. Afara's red star remained fixed beyond the eastern mountains. Its light filtered through the planet's permanent veil of silver cloud, so that morning arrived as a slow brightening of the world, rather than the rising of a visible sun. The towers of the capital emerged from darkness one level at a time, their glass walls catching the dull crimson glow while transportation lanes awakened beneath them, and agricultural drones began their silent procession towards the fields beyond the city. Commander Jalen Voss stood alone in the observation chamber of the planetary defense citadel when every light in the room changed from white to red. The transformation came without sound at first. The walls dimmed, the holographic star map above the central table disappeared. Then the warning siren rolled through the chamber with a deep mechanical pulse that Jalen felt beneath his boots before he fully heard it. The doors opened behind him. Lieutenant Mara Vey entered at a near run, still fastening the collar of her uniform. Her dark hair had been gathered carelessly at the back of her head, and the faint exhaustion beneath her eyes suggested that she had not slept long enough to call it rest. "Commander," she said, trying to control her breathing. "Long-range detection has confirmed 3 separate fleet signatures entering the Afaran corridor." Jalen turned from the window. "3 fleets?" "Yes, sir." "Whose?" Mara hesitated, and that hesitation gave him the answer before she spoke. "The Ver Dominion entered from the north gate. The Karad Collective emerged from the debris passage near Asterion. The third formation is masking its identity, but the engine signatures match the Sable Accord." For several seconds, Jalen said nothing. Any one of those fleets could have overwhelmed Afara's defenses. Together, they represented a sentence already passed. He walked toward the central table as the star map returned, filling the chamber with pale blue light. Afara Prime appeared at its center, a small blue sphere surrounded by orbital platforms, mining stations, and the thin formations of its defense fleet. Beyond them, 3 masses of red light advanced from different directions. The Dominion fleet moved with geometric precision, every cruiser aligned around 3 enormous dreadnoughts whose forward cannons were capable of carving through a moon's crust. The Karad moved differently. Their ships traveled in dense clusters, organic vessels grown rather than constructed, their hulls shaped like armored insects, and their weapons ports opening and closing like mouths. The Sable Accord advanced behind a veil of electronic interference, appearing on the display only in fragments, a wing of fighters here, a destroyer there, an enormous shadow moving behind them all. Jalen placed both hands against the edge of the table. "How long?" 28 hours until the first fleet reaches weapons range, Mara said. 32 until all 3 are in position. Admiral Nira Saul entered with 2 senior officers behind her. She was nearly 60, lean and severe, with closely cropped silver hair and the hard, controlled posture of someone who had spent most of her life commanding ships that other people had expected to die aboard. "We need to launch immediately," she said. "Every vessel capable of carrying weapons needs to be in orbit within the hour." Jalen looked at the display. "How many combat-ready ships?" 43. "And how many of theirs?" Mara answered quietly. "Our systems have identified 812. The final number is probably higher." Nira did not look away from Jalen. "Then we do not give them the opportunity to form a complete siege line. We strike 1 fleet before the others arrive." "With what?" "With everything. And after we spend everything destroying 1/10 of 1 fleet," Nira's jaw tightened, "then we die having wounded them." Jalen looked around the chamber. The officers watching him were waiting for something decisive, something worthy of the uniform he wore and the authority the colony had placed in his hands. They wanted him to point toward a target and tell them which direction to die. He could have done it. Military doctrine offered several respectable ways to lose. They could launch every available fighter at the Dominion's outer formations, hoping to damage a dreadnought before the Karad arrived. They could evacuate the governing council and abandon the civilians to negotiate their own surrender. They could collapse the jump gates and isolate the system, though the resulting energy release would strip half the planet's atmosphere. Every strategy ended in death. Jalen straightened slowly. "Summon the council," he said. Nira's expression hardened. "Commander, this is not the time for politicians." "I am not summoning politicians. Bring every district governor, fleet captain, civil defense leader, medical chief, pastor, elder, and labor representative into the Hall of Assembly." "For what purpose?" Jalen looked again at the red formations descending upon his world. "To tell them the truth." The Hall of Assembly had been built to hold 12,000 people. By midday, more than 50,000 crowded its balconies, corridors, exterior plazas, and adjoining transit stations. Millions more watched through public channels across the planet. Jalen stood on the central platform beneath a transparent dome through which the pale clouds of Afara drifted overhead. Behind him, the 3 enemy fleets burned across a projection nearly 30 meters high. He did not soften what was coming. "The Dominion has demanded our surrender twice in the last 7 years, he said. "The Karad have consumed every colony they have conquered. The Sable Accord has not identified its purpose, but it has never deployed a fleet of this size to negotiate." A low murmur traveled through the hall. Jalen allowed it to move through them. "We have 43 combat vessels," he continued. 7 are older than most of the people serving aboard them. We have enough fuel for 1 major engagement, enough ammunition for less than that, and no military ally close enough to reach us before the siege begins. Somewhere in the upper level, a child began to cry. Jalen saw people lower their heads. Others gripped the hands of those beside them. Several military officers kept their eyes fixed ahead, but their faces carried the same fear as the civilians surrounding them. He could have offered them empty courage. Instead, he gave them his own fear. "I do not know how to defeat what is coming," he said. "We do not have the strength to stand against these armies. We do not have the ships. We do not have the weapons. We do not have a hidden strategy waiting beneath this platform." He paused. But Afara was not founded upon the belief that our survival depended entirely upon what our hands could build. The hall grew quiet. Our ancestors crossed the dark between worlds because they believed the Keeper had called them here. They planted food in poisoned soil. They brought water from stone. They survived the first winter when the colony's reactors failed. They called themselves the Kept, not because hardship could never reach them, but because hardship could never remove them from the Keeper's hand. Jalen looked across the assembly. Every generation since has taught the next that we do not belong to fear. We are the Kept, and we will not abandon that truth now, because fear has arrived in ships large enough to block the stars. The words moved through the gathering. "We are the Kept," someone repeated from the lower level. Another voice answered from a balcony. "We are the Kept." Soon the phrase traveled throughout the hall, not shouted as a boast, but spoken as something the people needed to remember. Jalen allowed it to settle before continuing. "For the next day, every unnecessary operation on Afera will cease. We will conserve power. We will open the storehouses. We will gather in our homes, our sanctuaries, our hangars, our fields, and our ships. Those who believe will pray. Those who do not know what they believe may still stand beside us. We will seek wisdom before we spend the lives entrusted to us." Admiral Nira stood near the side of the platform, her arms folded. She did not agree with him. Jalen could see it in the rigidity of her shoulders, but she remained silent. Across Ifara, factories stopped. Mining drills withdrew from the mountains. Transport lanes emptied. The entire colony turned its attention toward the darkness gathering beyond its sky. For nearly 18 hours, Jalen moved from one gathering to another. He prayed with soldiers in launch bays and with families sheltering beneath the capital. He listened to the frightened, the angry, and those already preparing to bury people who had not yet died. He visited the Eastern Hospital, where physicians were converting entire wings into trauma centers. He spoke to pilots writing final messages for their children. Near midnight, he returned to the Hall of Assembly. Thousands remained. Some sat in silence, others whispered prayers. A group of engineers had gathered near the eastern wall, their oil-stained hands linked together. Farmers from the outer districts stood beside naval officers. Children slept across their parents' laps. Jalen descended from the platform and stood among them. He had no speech left. He lowered his head. "Keeper," he said, his voice carrying through the hall. "We have no strength against what has come upon us. We do not know what to do." The words caught in his throat. He raised his eyes toward the transparent dome and the darkness beyond it. "But our eyes are upon you." For a moment, nothing happened, and someone cried out from the upper balcony. The sound was not fear, it carried too much force for that. A young woman pushed through the crowd, one hand pressed against the side of her head, as though she were hearing something no one else could hear. Jalen recognized her. Lieutenant Mara Vey. She reached the lower level, stumbled against the railing, and lifted her face toward him. Her eyes were filled with tears. "The battle is not yours," she said. The entire hall seemed to draw breath. Mara's voice shook, but it did not weaken. "You will go out against them. You will take your position in the corridor beyond Orison's moon. You will not need to destroy these armies. Stand firm, and you will see what the Keeper will do." Admiral Neera stepped forward. Mara looked at her, but the words continued. "Do not be afraid of their number. Do not turn back because of what fills the sky. Go out against them." The hall remained silent long after she finished. Jalen stared at the young officer. He wanted certainty. He wanted the clouds to open, the enemy fleets to disappear from the scanners, or some weapon forgotten beneath the city to awaken and make obedience unnecessary. Instead, he had a word. Go out against them with 43 ships, without the power to win. Jalen looked toward the projected fleets, then he turned to Admiral Neera. "Prepare every ship." Neera's eyes narrowed. "To attack? No. Then what are we preparing them to do?" Jalen looked at Mara again. "We are going to take our position."